Awesome. That's all good.
All right.
And here comes Hannah. All right, Hannah, we're just getting started here. This is the March Madness Challenge 1 edition. I just started the recording. So it is, and I think I sent it in the email, but it is good to have your catalog handy for taking notes in. I took a lot of notes for Jamie's calls last year, and then when I got to second semester and I was trying to remember what she said, I remembered, oh yeah, I took notes in my catalog. So I just went back to my catalog, for like mock trial notes and things like that that she had talked about, and just got a lot of good ideas. So that way, and it was a place where I wasn't going to lose them by just putting them in a random notebook. So that's a good thing to have handy. So let's see, we're just going to do some quick introductions. We just have a few people on the call here. So Tara already did her intro. She is calling from, and she's multitasking right now, but she's calling from Louisville, and she remind me there's a next year challenge 1 student, and then a next year challenge A student, and then a 4-year-old at home. So
Yes,
yeah, awesome. I got that right?
that's correct.
Awesome. She's at Farmdale. And then Hannah, do you want to tell us about yourself and where you're calling from? I think you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you.
I can speak for Hannah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it.
She's from Louisville as well.
Okay.
So our daughters are in the same class that will be
Okay.
going into Challenge 1 at Farmdale.
All right. Awesome. Well, it's good to have you guys here. So since you're from Louisville, I'll remind you too, I am doing that pop-up bookshop at my house tomorrow. So I'll have like all the new products and like all the stuff that I put out at Practicum, but then there's additional like new t-shirts and sweatshirts. And I think I'll have the new like Lee Borton's Habits, the new Habits book will be available, things like that. And if you want to see like the new Fallacy Detective or any of those items, those will be available in person to look at. So, and that's tomorrow 10 to 2. It's just kind of come and go as you feel like. All right. Well, my name is Krista Bottomley. I am the Kentucky Book Rep. I cover both halves of the state, so I have like 2 territories, but it's all the way out almost to West Virginia and almost to Missouri, and then up to Illinois, Indiana, and down to Tennessee. So I cover the entire state. And I've been homeschooling. So I like to kind of cheat on my numbers for how long I've been homeschooling, because I figure, well, I've been homeschooling my daughter since birth and she's 23. So I just go ahead and say, according and the Lord gives us our children from birth, not when they turn 5 and, technically it's kindergarten. So I say I've been homeschooling for 23 years, and that keeps my math simple. I don't have to do the math and try to figure out how long has she been in kindergarten, since kindergarten. And then I also have a Challenge A student this year and a Challenge B student. And then my oldest there is leaning on my youngest, who is 8. He is in foundations, but he'll be starting essentials next year. So I do have a wide spread. I've graduated one. She's about to graduate college in about a month here. And but then I'm still in the thick of things, teaching someone to read and do cursive and things like that. So I think that kind of helps me with kind of gives me a touch of reality while I also see where things are headed. So, but I have been I've been a foundations tutor and essentials tutor, and then foundations essentials director, and I've directed Challenge A and B. But I really do feel like book repping is like the sweet spot for me, because I really like to support leadership rather than be a leader myself. So I like to kind of come alongside and help moms, help directors, help LRs with what they do. So that's where my passion is. And then Jamie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jamie Riggs, and you can see my crew there. I am in Lexington, and we have my husband Travis and I have been married, I think, 22 years this summer, and our oldest son is going to be a senior coming up, Challenge 4. But right now I have Challenge 3, Challenge 1, Challenge A, F&E, and just foundations. So I have them all the way from almost 17 down to just turned 8. So I have quite a range too. We've been in CC since Tucker, my oldest, was in like 4, and I have done quite a bit of leadership stuff. I've done F&E and directing, and then I was a tutor first, and then directed that, and I've directed A, B, 1, 2, and I'm about to direct Challenge 4. So I'm really excited. So Essentials Tutor I have never done, and hopefully they'll never ask me. And then and I haven't done Challenge 3 yet. I'm momming it right now, but haven't done it. But anyway, so yeah. And now I'm also a local rep for our area.
And I just love how Jamie like casts a good vision for what CC's overall picture is. So like why we do what we do and all that. So I really appreciate her. She's doing 4 of these calls with me. So I just really appreciate the time that she's investing. So all right, so we're starting off with we already did the greeting and introductions. I'm going to do a quick prayer. I am going to do a very brief overview of classical education. I'm sure you guys have all heard it many times, but I just want to like reset us to remember why we're doing what we're doing. And Jamie does a great job at establishing that, but I'm still going to like give us a ground zero. And it's also good for us to hear that regularly so that we can also articulate it to other people in our communities so that we can help strengthen them so that we continue to have a full class or a good sized class as our students get older. We want to kind of reinforce the community in that way. And then Jamie will give her perspective on what goes on at Community Day. And then do you have a student visit available today? Yep, she'll have a, she'll get
one's coming up.
Awesome, awesome. And then I'll talk about some of the resources that are available, both physical resources and online resources to help you. And then there'll be a Q&A time at the end. So as you're going about, like as you're listening, if you write down any questions that you have, and then you can either put them in the chat and I'll check those at the end, or you can also, if you have like a burning question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, and that'll be fine. So let's see. All right, so somebody just shot me a text. I'm gonna double check what that was. Okay, no, that's good. All right, so let me pray really quick before I get into all that. So, all right, pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the technology that makes it so that we can do this sort of thing, where we can communicate across miles and collaborate on tasks together. Just help Jamie and I to be able to think and communicate clearly, help us to be concise and yet thorough, help us to cast a vision for your plan for our children going forward, and just help these mamas as they're trying to get ready for the next year. Just bless them as they are putting in the work that is needed to prepare, and just bless our time together. And thank you, Lord, so much for all that you're doing with our kids and in our own lives as you're equipping us. In Christ's name, amen. All right, so I'm gonna try to do this pretty quick if I can. Let's see if I can keep it under, let's aim for under 10 minutes. Maybe I can keep it under 8 even if I move quickly. All right, so just as a reminder, modern education, what's going on at public schools and most of the private schools throughout our country is we put the student is kind of at the middle of our goals, either the student or the parents or the administration. Student, we say, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or parents, we say, what do you want your student to be? What are your goals? Or academic, or the administration, whether it's a government school or a private school, they think, oh, we want to raise a good citizen, or we want them to have good SAT scores so our school develops a good reputation. But ultimately, man is at the center of most modern education models. And then you have isolated subjects kind of rotating around that don't really, the bell rings and you move from math class over to history class, and they really have nothing to do with each other. Now you get a poor Christian education, they're still kind of keeping man's goals at the center of everything, but they've just added on some Bible study, maybe Bible verses in some of the classes, or they pray before class. Now you get a good Christian education and they rightfully put God's goals at the center of everything, and recognize that we are put here to glorify God, not to glorify ourselves. And but you're still having those isolated subjects on the sides. Now, a great Christian education says that because God created all these subjects, they also give back glory to Him, and you'll find His fingerprints all throughout creation. So when you're studying math, you are going to learn some things that reflect the Creator who created math, and the same thing with history and philosophy and all the rest. Now, classical Christian education no longer keeps those subjects isolated so that math and history and philosophy and science are all separate subjects. Instead, it says God created not a multiverse, but a universe. And in that way, all these subjects, what we call subjects, are actually all interrelated, kind of like the threads of a tapestry. They all weave together for one universal picture that all give glory to God. Now, CC, that's where you see our catechesis wheel. What CC has our catechesis wheel, but we have, instead of subjects going around, so we don't see math and history and science around the edge here. Instead, these are all what we call strands, are skills that we use in order to uncover truth and discover God through his creation. So instead of, you don't see science and math and things like that in here, you see exposition, grammar, debate, research, reasoning, and logic. And now the subjects are still part of that, but they are more tools that we use to learn these skills. So like the skill of researching, if we want to be able to research well to uncover truth, we'll use science as a way to practice those skills. But ultimately, the goal is the skill of learning. Okay, these lost tools of learning is what our objective is. And all that is so that we can uncover truth and know and glorify God through our education. Now, I'm going to cover the trivium again. So trivium is just saying there are 3 basic roads for learning. Everybody does this, and the most efficient way everybody can learn is to start off with learning the basic grammar of anything. If I want to, if I want to work on the skill of cooking, if I want to learn how to cook well, I first need some basic knowledge about the things I'm going to work on. I need to know what my ingredients are. I need to know the different kind of vinegars, maybe, or the different kind of sugars or flours. I need to know how my measuring cups work. I need to know that there's quarter cup, and I need to know about tablespoons, teaspoons, and how my oven works. That's just the basic grammar of cooking. And if I'm going to learn efficiently, I need to know how to name those things appropriately and be able to describe what they do in order to go to the next step. The next step would be the dialectic stage. And this is where I am starting to fiddle around, say, okay, so what does baking soda do? Why do I have baking soda versus baking powder? How do they operate differently in my recipes? Okay, so I followed all these recipes, but what if I'm out of brown sugar? Can I use white sugar? Still, what does that do to my muffins if I'm trying to do that? So I'm starting to play around and see how things interact and interrelate. The way it correlates to your students when they're learning things is they've learned things like Thomas Jefferson did the Louisiana Purchase here in the United States, but then there's Napoleon over in France, but that happened at the same time. So when you start wrestling with what is the relationship between these things, you see, oh, Napoleon needed to fund his wars over in Europe, so he was willing to sell the Louisiana Purchase to Thomas Jefferson very cheaply or inexpensively, so that the westward expansion could happen. So you start connecting the dots between the different things that you've learned. Then you get to the rhetorical stage, so back with the cooking example, is where I'm actually able to prepare a good meal for my family. I'm able to go shopping, evaluate what's there, what's on sale, see what's in my fridge, kind of keep a catalog, and come up with an overall strategy so I can feed my family in a healthy way and not just be doing the dump, or the heat, what do they call it? Heat and run or something, or heat and eat sort of thing. So where I can bless others and bear fruit and wisdom with what I've learned. And we find that, I'm going to go through all these really quick. We find that this process plays out with natural childhood development. So in the same way, every adult, whenever they tackle any new subject, if I want to learn how to do woodworking, I'm still going to have to start. The most efficient way is for me to start in the grammar stage before I start whipping out a power tool and starting to get dialectic and trying to be rhetorical. So, but children automatically, when they are young, they're mostly focused on this grammar stage where they're sucking in all this information. They can memorize the characters of Paw Patrol, or they can learn Timeline song. They can learn parts of speech, or they can learn history sentences, things like that. And they just love that. And they glorify, they just revel in the fact that they can memorize all this. But then when they get to the dialectic stage, most of our students going into Challenge 1 are very much in the dialectic stage. They very much want to start arguing and dialoguing and debating about, okay, these different ideas, I've learned all these things, I've soaked up all this information, what do I do with it all? And that's where they start going back to things like the Thomas Jefferson versus Napoleon thing, and they start making connections and seeing what the relationship is there. And then as they get a little bit older, when they're really, really good at something, they start getting into these young adult stages where they've taken in all this information, they've dialogued about it all, but now they are just craving to express it to you. They want to share what they have. Now, even young students can do this. So my 8-year-old can get rhetorical with his Legos when he has done all these things with Legos, and he's teased them out. He's built the basic things and he's learned how to make his own models, but then he wants to show you what he's done. So everybody, when they get to that rhetorical stage, they just want to burst out with what they know. Now, our students, when they get to college campuses, if we haven't fed them with good truth, if we haven't loaded them with good, solid, reliable grammar, and we haven't taught them how to ask questions about what they know and how to dialogue respectfully with others, they get to the college campuses and they feel this bursting need to express. But if we haven't put that foundation into their brains, it's going to come out as a lot of bleh. And that's where you get like college campuses with like the riots and the protests and things like that. And we wonder where is all this like activity going on in college campuses? And it's because they have this need to share, but they don't have the good content to share and learned how to respectfully dialogue about that. So that's very much part of our process. So I'm going to skip through some of these because there's quite a bit here. Okay, I do want to emphasize that when you're getting into, obviously, if you're going into Challenge 1, you're starting to look at high school. And that's where it can get a little scary because all of a sudden rubber hits the road. We need to have transcripts. We're looking at college entrance stuff. We're thinking about SAT scores, ACT scores, things like that. And so we can get a little bit distracted by start going back to that man-based model. But we need to remember that overall, our goal at CC, what we've made our mission is to know God and to make him known. And if the Lord has called you to homeschool and if he has called you to homeschool through high school, and if he has called you to use CC to equip you to do that, then it is going to take some courage at a few points. So just want to reinforce that is our mission. We have 5 pillars that we've put into that we use to kind of solidify this. We say we are here to pursue truth, to embrace stewardship, to act with courage, to preserve freedom, and to do hard things. And once you're getting into Challenge 1, I think you're seeing a dabble of that in Challenge B right now. I know we are at home, but mock trial is getting a little hard, but you're going to start seeing this in Challenge 1. We are going to be doing hard things, and it does take courage to persevere to the end. But just know that going in, nothing strange is happening to you. This isn't unusual. This is part of the journey, and I think that you'll find that in community, you will be equipped to handle that. Our 3 main pillars are that we are a Christian. We focus on community. Community is what happens at home and at your community within, your CC community, and it's also the community of the broader church as well. And then we are classical. Classical education embodies the most natural skills, as I was talking about before, but that classical is not very widely known anymore. It has persevered through the ages. It's been around for a long, long time, but you're going to feel kind of strange compared to your neighbors or compared to your other family members. Maybe your brother and sister-in-law aren't doing this. And so you're going to feel a little odd at times, and just know that that's okay. If the Lord has called you to this, I think that you can trust the process. It is a time-honored process for learning. And all these are on page 5. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. Page 5 in your catalog. So you can kind of review these, but just know that when we're going through CC, if things get weird and hard, go back to what are CC's goals? And do I share the same goals that CC does? And if you do, I think you really can trust the process. So, all right, Jamie, I think I kept that as brief as I could. So I'll let you go ahead and take over, and I'll get a little breather.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot to cover. I appreciate the reminders. It's always good to hear again and get that grammar built into us so that when we talk to others who maybe are hearing it for the first time, it's good to, be able to be refreshed in it. So I am super excited to talk to you, ladies, and about Challenge 1. I was pretty afraid of Challenge 1 going into it. I had heard a lot of kind of mom talk about how difficult Challenge 1 was, and just how I don't know, just everybody likes to bash certain things, and so I was kind of hesitant going in when my oldest son went into Challenge 1. And I think the thing that I would encourage you is it is hard, but we can do hard things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think it's hard. It probably is not for the reason that you may think. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But I think one thing that I just would encourage you, you ladies, to do in your own home is just to embrace this time with your student as they learn and grow, as they fall down mentally and emotionally and learn to get back up. There's so many growing things that happen in this stage and in this particular year for them. And you will see so much beauty. You will be encouraged and you will see so much growth in them. And I really think you will look back and be surprised at how much you have grown and how much they have grown through the Challenge 1 year. So the theme for Challenge 1 is discipline is the cornerstone of freedom. And Challenge 1 takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot to think through the curriculum. It's the calling up for the themes, and it is the most we will read in Challenge 1 and Challenge 2 is the most we will read, and we'll read a lot. We will write a lot. There's just so much, coming into this year. It's very full. And so the better you stay disciplined, then the more freedom you will find through that. So I think, but just be encouraged. It's good, but it is definitely a calling up that happens. So in logic, this year we're going to get to go into the binomials, which I'm super excited about, and directors are extremely excited about, because logic tends to be the one that's been difficult in community for so many years, because we had people on different levels and using different curriculums. And so it was often just a struggle to get good conversation. And so I'm super excited for directors to be able to have this option in community for them. So if your student is currently in Challenge B, then you're using it, and Challenge A is using it. And so hopefully you're finding some beauty in it. I do, as an LR, I often explain to people when they kind of are feeling that, pull, and they say to me, like, I want to love the math map, but there's just something, I just can't, it's not all clicking for me. And I really think that a lot of the time that's community, right? So a lot of your foundations and essentials families, they're missing that community aspect. And so once they have that piece put in, the math map becomes just the beauty that it is. And so I think there'll be some really great discussions for students and parents as you work through the math map in logic, the logic strand. So in grammar, we're in Henley. And it's really nice because the first semester, it's almost as if we're just taking those Challenge A and Challenge B years and we're just speeding through them. But the students are ready for that, right? They've gained a lot of, this is the third time they've been through that. So it's that same feel of what we're going to talk about in a minute with the Lost Tools of Writing, right? It's that same feeling. And so it's nice because the students gain a lot of empowerment in the first semester, while so many other things are new and hard. Latin is like, oh, we've done this, I know what I'm doing. And so it really has that feeling of just mastery that's happening there for with Henley. And then they get to finish in the second semester, they finish the rest of the book. And so I told my class we meet in community on Wednesdays, and I held up the rest of the Latin book we have left. I was like, guys, look how much you've done. It was so exciting. So the second semester, they're getting into verb moods, and they're learning so much about the infinitives and how they work. And I got to tell you, this is like a side comment that I did not say on our first call because it hadn't happened yet, but in community, we got into this beautiful discussion. We were talking about Latin infinitives, and they were talking about, and it kind of led down to a path talking about scripture. And one of the girls in the class was like, Mrs. Riggs, I wonder what this scripture would say in Latin, because I've always thought this was really bad English for Paul to use. And so we start looking at it, and I got so excited. I was like jumping up and down because it was so beautiful. We were like, no, Paul doesn't have bad English grammar. English grammar doesn't have the space for what Paul was trying to say. And so it's super exciting to have those kind of conversations with the students and for them to really be able to grasp the language in a new way in Challenge 1. So it's very fun, and they do. It's a lot, and it just continues to be all that Latin is. But it's beautiful, and I have really grown to love it. And I genuinely did. I jumped up and down because I was so pumped with what we call in challenge. We call that Pentecost. And I was so thrilled with these Pentecost moments that God was allowing these students to have through the study of Latin to learn more about him. And so it's super exciting. All right, the research strand is different from what we've done in Challenge A and what we've done in Challenge B. The main reason is that we're going into labs now, so we're getting serious. We're, as Krista mentioned, we're doing transcripts, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Cece's making it easy for you. But when we get through, we start with Apologia, and that's what we're staying with in the further levels of Challenge 1, 2, and 3. So in the research strand, they're doing physical science. And so we will do labs every other week in community. And so your director will lead you through those, lead the students through those. And if you'd like to come help her as a mom, she'd love that because she needs lots of extra hands. And Challenge 1 students love to put things in their mouth like toddlers. And so it's always like, don't put that in your mouth. So anyway, we love extra mom hands in there, but yeah, so the director will lead them through that. They will learn how to write a actual formal lab report, and they'll be learning how to do that. And so they walk through that in physical science. It's a really fun year. We do a lot of really fun stuff. There's also some for you moms at home, there's also some lists and some boxes that you can buy that has all the supplies there for you so that some of the experiments can be done at home. It's a great way to bring everybody around the table because even your youngest kids love to see, baking soda explode over the thing. And Apologia does a great job for keeping most of the science supplies you need for physical science. They're in your pantry. So you just have to know how to do them, right? And so this is another place, especially if your family this is kind of something that you love and kind of getting together in that way. I definitely would say, yeah, get into some of those science things at home because it's pretty fun and some beautiful discussions. And so then what also is not on this slide, but a big part of what's happening in the research strand as well is your students are going to write a research paper. This is going to be rather large paper. It's from 10 to 15 pages. They spend the entire second semester gathering and learning a system. So they have options in the guide for note card systems and keeping note cards online. So what they're really doing is they're honing those skills that they've learned in IW, right? Like their Faces of History. And then they're also taking so much of what they've learned in Challenge A with the science fair. And now we're just building up on that, right? We're just building into that research paper. And so they've got a lot of the skills they need to do this well, but it's just the actual sitting down and paring down info. And what do I want to do? And what do I want to write about? And so topics are student and parent chosen. So there's just kind of a wide option for you, but it's really beautiful. I think Tara on the call had said she's going to have a Challenge A student and a Challenge 1, and that's so fun. The only thing better would be to have A, 1, and 3. That's what I have right now. It's so great because you have your A doing the science fair and you have your 1 doing the research paper. And so it's like you can see this building that's happening for them. And then it actually leads really well into the senior thesis, which is coming up in Challenge 4. So just a fun thing, but a big project for them. And they feel very accomplished when they get that done. And so exposition, if you look at all these books and you're like, whoa, that's great. You should. So we read a lot. And so this is what I wanted to talk just briefly about why people say Challenge 1 is so hard. I really genuinely believe that it's not so much that there's so much in Challenge 1, although there is, but your students, if they have gone through Challenge A and B, they're starting to build that muscle of doing hard things. And so really what's hard is the calling up is what I like to call it, that happens in Challenge 1. And for the first time, we're asking our students to engage with really difficult themes, themes about slavery, things about injustice in the world, things with the Scarlet Letter, there's infidelity. just some really, really difficult themes that that they know is there, right? Unless they live in a bubble, they know it's there, but no one's ever really asked them, are these things right? What are these things? You tell me your thoughts. And that's a lot for a Challenge One student, for a 14-year-old, right? And so it's a great opportunity for you guys to lean in. So if you're a mom on the call, I just encourage you, lean in these moments. You will see so much growth and so much beauty come from these conversations that these books give you the opportunity to have, right? Because it's awkward to go to your 14-year-old and be like, hey, let's talk about, right? It's weird. But these books bring this in and give you this opportunity to find a place of community with your student, to set a table of hospitality, and then to be able to have these really difficult conversations in the safety of your home and with the gospel lens. And so don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and be ready for some hard questions, right? But good questions, as we walk through these exposition books. So yeah, there's just some, most of them can be found through audiobooks. So if your student does audiobooks, I think that's great. And they're going to, they're not going to write a paper on every one of them. That's another thing. When the student looks at that, they're like, ah! They don't write a paper on every one of them. Some of them are just for discussion only. In class and at home. And then we also walk through LTW. So if they've been in A and B, they're going through their third tour of LTW. So they are feeling good, feeling strong about that essay, right? And then we when we get into the later part of the first semester into the second semester, we kind of switch on them and we teach them how to write the comparison essay. And so the very first comparison essay that they write is between Up From Slavery and the life of Frederick Douglass, right? And so they pick, though, and usually challenge students they're not ready to really think beyond major themes. So they just pick the two men and compare them usually, which is totally fine. And so they're going to read and they're going to learn that. And then they'll be carrying those comparison essays all the way through Challenge 4. So this is a great first experience in how to write those. So that's what's happening in exposition. And then debate is exciting in Challenge 1 because it feels like everything that the curriculum curators wanted to give the Challenge 1 student, they were like, we can put it in debate. So there's a lot going on in the debate strand. So the first semester is the American government, American documents. And this is my personal favorite. I wouldn't have said that before I went through it as a director, but being in community and watching it has been so great. So what they do is they take the American documents and they read the original documents, and we teach them how to annotate. And so we show them how to do that. And then they come to class and give a brief summary about the American document and what they read. And the way that Lee Bortons has designed the program is so great because she does the opposite of what modern education does, right? So modern education says, let me give you a bunch of books about what people think about history, and then maybe later we're going to let you read original documents, or maybe never. What Lee Bortons says is, no, we're going to give them original documents, and they're going to go through and see what was actually said by our writers, right, of the writers, and we're going to teach them how to think through it. And then later, we're going to give them other books with other people's commentaries on history and things like that. So it's just such a great way to do it, I think, because they're actually looking at the real documents. And it's really fun to get to read through those in class, and it brings some really beautiful discussion. And then we also do a cost of living project where students try to say, hey, here's what I think my life might look like. Can I afford it? So they look up, what does it cost to live in the city I'm in? How much is rent? Do I need a car? Like, they think through all of those things, and that's a cost of living project happens. We also play the stock market. And we get into economics and with the two books you see there. So we walk through economics as a group. We also do what is the capstone event for Challenge 1, which is teen policy debate. And so for the first time, they're learning the actual debate process. And so formally. And so they do one debate in the first semester, and then they do a second debate in the second semester. And so that is their capstone event, and it is very, very exciting to see them walk through it and to see that rhetorical stage kind of starting to come out in them. So I think that's all that we do. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot going on there. Yep. And then, so in first semester in the reasoning strand, which is, is our resting strand. Like if people ask, what does that mean? So in challenge, our reasoning is our resting strand. And it just means that it's our strand where it's the strand students are going to love the most. That's what I always say. Because usually it's more fun and community, and it just has, a lot. Usually they can get their assignments done pretty quickly. And so it's everybody's favorite, right? But they go through traditional logic. And this traditional logic is, if you've been through Challenge B logic, this is going to be laughable for them. They can do it like my students would sit in class while we were having discussions and finish their homework on it. They're just so much grammar that they already know. And so it's very nice for them. It's good. And then in the second semester, we get to read through Taming of the Shrew. We get to talk about what makes a good marriage. And you guys, it's actually in the guide. Talk with your parents about what makes a good marriage. So we bring all those ideas to community, and then we read about the Taming of the Shrew and what we don't want our life to look like, right? And so we get to act out some of the scenes in community, which is really fun. And that also counts as a drama credit for their transcript. So I tell them, the boys in my class, even if you don't want to, unless your mom says you don't have to, if she's counting it as a drama credit, then you're getting up here and acting these lines out. So anyway, they love it, and it's a highlight of the day. I always save it for last in community because everyone looks forward to it. So it's like, oh, if we can just get through this, we can do Taming of the Shrew. So it's fun. They really love it. Oh, there was my capstone event. Yeah, and it's really great. It's a growing process for moms. If you have never done debate before. So give yourself grace as you learn. The tour guide will be your best friend. Your director will also be a great help to you. It's going to take a while for you to get your bearings. But once you see one of the debates, I would encourage you, if your director needs a judge, you should go judge, because you'd be like, I don't even know what to do. CC has papers. They'll show you what to do. And just watching it helps you get more familiar with the process, right? And it's really setting up, because they're going to debate in Challenge 2 and Challenge 3. And so it's really great to see it in action, and just give yourself grace at home as you're walking through. This is a new skill, right? This is new for everybody, and we're going to fall down and we're going to mess up. And, in grace, we're going to get back up and keep trying. So yeah, it's fun. It's been growing for me, especially because I didn't do any kind of debate in school. So, all right. Well, Nolan is here. Hello, Nolan.
Hello.
Oh, you have on your CC shirt. Look at you, on brand. I bought him these shirts at our leadership because they were so cheap. And I knew he'd love it because it's like slick. So anyway, it is nice. So this is my son, Nolan.
Hi, guys.
And Nolan, how long have you been in CC?
As long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So really long time. I was in like the nursery care stuff before I was actually being taught for CC. So
Yeah.
forever, pretty much.
Yeah. So you are in Challenge 1. What's your favorite thing about Challenge 1?
My favorite thing about Challenge 1 is probably either I really enjoy the community. Just like getting to learn alongside of all of the people I've gotten to know. And we had a couple new students come in just from Challenge 1 from different community. So getting to know them has been pretty cool. But I think my favorite thing has probably been going through the American documents. and writing the summaries on them, because when we come in, we after we've written our summaries, like we read them to each other, and then that sparks a really usually it sparks a really good discussion on those documents. And you kind of see it a little bit in Challenge B. I don't think you hardly ever see it in Challenge A, but like being able to have just like a really deep discussion with your classmates is just, that's not necessarily led by the director. Like she or he like takes a part of it as much as she or he like leads it. So it's really good. I like it a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think you guys, by the time they get to challenge 1, they have learned, they know what you want, right? In challenge A, they're looking at you like little deer in headlights, right? And they're like, I don't know how to formulate my thoughts. Like, you got to teach me these
Mhm.
skills, right? And by the time they get to challenge 1, the skills are there so much that they do so much of the deep dive in discussion. So that's so true. That's true. What's your least favorite thing about challenge 1?
My least favorite thing about Challenge One would probably be the science. I don't enjoy science very much. Uh, the science that I have to do every week. So like the experiments that we do are not too bad. Like in community, even writing the lab reports isn't that hard. But like just reading the module every single week and then like doing all the homework on it, it's usually like 55 plus pages of reading every
Mm.
week, and it's really hard and
Yeah.
tedious.
Yeah, but it's over 2 weeks.
Yeah, you
Right.
have 2 weeks to read it, which is
Yeah.
nice, but like I don't enjoy don't enjoy the science very much.
Yeah.
Although the science research paper is actually not half bad because you get to pick your topic. So
Yeah, so he's working on that now. You wrote your rough draft, right? I
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to look at it, but you want to
Oh.
tell him what your topic's on?
yeah, so I picked hurricanes because I'm fascinated by powerful storms. So definitely I would encourage students to pick like something they're very interested in, because otherwise science research paper is going to be really hard. But basically, my paper is to explore like what hurricanes are, like the if hurricanes like throughout history. Basically, like maybe are they becoming more powerful over time, and then like how are they studied, who studies them, stuff like that. It's really cool though. I liked it.
Yeah, good. What encouragement would you give like a student or a mom that's about to go into their first, like a mom who hasn't done challenge 1 before? Like, what encouragement would you say
Um,
or advice?
I would probably say that for like the student mainly, it's really hard um, for us to get like mentally prepared for the fact that school takes way longer than it did before. So like you get a little bit of a taste of it in second semester challenge B when you're working on mock trial. But with challenge 1, it takes a really long time to get all of your schoolwork done. So like I don't know, when you were younger as a student, if you woke up like pretty early and you like really did a lot of schoolwork, and grind, you could like get done pretty much around lunchtime. That's not an option anymore. It's hard,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's good. It's just difficult to
What has it been like, some of the themes that in like in the exposition strand? What has it been like trying to think through some of those really hard, like the Scarlet Letter, like
Yeah.
the Life of Frederick Douglass? What are those? Born Again. That's
Mm.
the Watergate. Born Again is about the Watergate.
Yeah. One really interesting thing that I've noticed is that in Challenge A, and a lot of times in Challenge B too, when you read the stories, they're fake characters about real events in history. And in Challenge 1, you get to real characters, people who actually lived, historical figures, and then historical events in history. So with Challenge A and B, you can kind of like think like kind of like calm down a little bit about like all of the hard things that you're going through, because like you read about the Holocaust in Challenge A and B. But since they're not real characters,
Mm.
sometimes it's easier to like push aside all of those darker themes. But then
Mhm.
when you get to Up from Slavery and Born Again, and stuff like that, you really encounter uh, how these like are real people that experienced real terrible things, and it's a lot harder to e- cope with that, I guess. But
Mhm.
it does bring about really important discussions that you need to have. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you do need to have. So being like being in community with those discussions and also with like talking with Tucker, his older brother, and me, I
Yeah.
think has really helped you process a lot of those harder things, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Do y'all have any questions for Nolan or me? Probably not as fun to talk to as Nolan.
Someone fresh, that's all.
How is it using, because I think Apologia is the first time you guys really do a official textbook. Like, is it is that part of what makes it kind of blah? Because
Yeah, I think that could be it. Also, I I don't know. I just don't. The author is Vicky Dincher, and she explains certain parts of it are interesting, but she explains concepts that could be said in a much quicker manner, and she takes like a page and a half on something that could be said in like maybe one paragraph. So it's just,
I hope Vicky Ditcher doesn't see this call. We love you, Vicky.
I mean, it's just really tedious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I'm glad you're being honest. It's true. Yeah, it is.
Well,
It's
and
a
when
lot.
when CC started using Apologia, it was Jay Weil, if you remember him. And he had a different, and I remember when they did the switch over with the new editions, my daughter was like, what is going on? But CC was like, no, we need to learn to use textbooks because they will see textbooks, and probably in college. So
Mhm.
unfortunately. So,
Yeah.
um,
Nolan is also dyslexic.
oh yeah,
So he struggles with following concepts,
Mm.
especially when concepts are 50 plus
Yeah.
pages. It's
Yeah.
harder for him to follow, in that. So I think especially if you have a student that has like some more learning disabilities
Mhm.
and things,
Mhm.
you may just have to get creative on loving them well.
Mhm.
And maybe take some turns reading some. There's been some times where we do some of it orally, like we've tried to learn to scale, so that he can still participate well, and I feel still confident to give him that credit, and he can still perform well in the what we would consider the testing part of it, but
Okay.
at home. But
Yeah.
you have to kind of get creative because it's a
Mhm.
lot for students that maybe have a harder time learning.
Suffice to say, I'm an audiobook fan in the exposition strand.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nolan loves him a good audiobook.
Well, especially as moms, like when we're trying to keep up and we need to make dinner, and it's like, listening to like Born Again on headphones. I remember doing that very much while making what was chicken marsala. Like I have a vivid memory of a certain part of the book. I was like, what? And then I'm like making chicken marsala. But okay, so how about economics? Like, do you find that that's kind of like, do you find it's a little hard to understand, or do you think the Blue Stocking Guide does a good job at explaining some of it? Because economics is kind of hard for some of us. Like I'm looking at the real estate market right now, like what's going on? I don't understand this stuff. But
Yeah, I would say that economics, the Blue Stockings Guide, Whatever Happened to Penny Candy and Money Mystery, they're
Mhm.
written by like the author, like Uncle Eric. That's like his like title or whatever.
Mhm.
He does a really good job explaining it
Okay.
to younger people. And then also we have a person in our community, one of my classmates, who like loves Uncle Eric's books, and he's like read all of them that he has written on
Oh,
economics.
okay.
So
I didn't
he
know that.
independently, so he also helps like us understand anything that we like miss out on. But I
Uh-huh.
would say that Uncle Eric does do a really good job um in doing like explaining it to people who've like the first introduction to economics.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to understand. And I think what's interesting in community is that some of the kids, I think they get the gist of it in a way, because I've had to continually remind them of hope, recenter us on truth,
Mhm.
because it does feel they're like, this, how does this even work? Like, how are
Yeah.
we still, everything is so expensive. Like, they're just like in all
Mhm.
these politicians that are saying we can fix the economy. They're like, you can't fix the economy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's part of the hard calling up too, is this like slap in the face moment that the students get of like, this is
Whoa.
real life? Like, what?
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
asking them to do the cost
Don't
of
these
living.
grown-ups have this under control? No, we don't.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're doing the cost of living, so they're looking at their future
Oh.
and they're realizing, oh, I can't afford to eat if I also go here and do that. Like, and so it's just a very like, oh my word, this is real world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the
So
way it happens.
I think
Yeah.
two of the most like sobering things in challenge one has been discussing slavery and economics.
Yeah.
Genuinely. It's just because like you think about how Jesus talks about the love of money is the root of many evils. And it's one of the most easy things to see how broken and sinful mankind really is when you
Mm.
put them in a context centered and focused around money. And it's just
Mm.
yeah. It's a hard one to get right, but he does do a good job explaining it.
All right, Tara's asking in the chat. She was you sparked something in her. She's wondering about tailoring. So she wants some more advice on tailoring some of the other strands. So you
Okay,
mentioned
so-
audiobooks. And I know
Yes.
Apologia has an audiobook version of their textbook.
Mhm.
They do.
And then yeah, they
I
do.
didn't know that.
They
Oh.
Nolan's like,
I didn't get
"Hello."
that thing.
So in exposition, I would say talk with your director, but I personally have had some students that did not read every book. They did not read the books that we did not write a paper on. So that lessened the load a little bit. If the director is okay with that, what I asked them to do instead was just to give some sort of summary of what the book is. Like if the parent had read it, maybe hit the highlights or maybe download like a podcast on it, the Words Aptly Spoken podcast or something, so that they can participate in community. But that's one way to tailor like as much reading as there is maybe to back off just a little bit on that. And then audiobooks obviously for the ones. I think for Latin, this is a Jamie thing, not an LR thing. Um um you got to think about the end goal, which is hard for you ladies probably because you're not at the end to look back.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we going with this? Latin, where we're going with this is we're going to eventually give a challenge 3 and a challenge 4 student an original document, and we're going to say, hey, read this and translate it. So I shifted a lot as a mom in our home away from just the like writing and everything and kind of moved more into an oral Latin kind of standard because I saw the need for my challenge 3 student to be able to read something and then tell me what it says in English. And it takes a different skill. So I would encourage you, yeah, you still need, especially in A, you still need to get that all of those definitions down, right, for the vocab. You need to understand tense. You need to understand tense because if I say I loved you, what do you mean you loved me? You don't love me now, right?
Yeah.
So I would hone in as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Tense,
I'm getting
tense,
that right.
tense, tense. If they get a tense wrong, we got to go back and figure out why. That is not just a no, it was looked, not look, right? That key in on that. That's important. But as much as you can do orally with your student, especially the first semester, because they're just going back through. So if they want to give you the opportunity to just say like, and you're looking at it and they can just rattle it off, it takes Latin from being, a really long strand to shorter, and you're not lessening, you're not devaluing what you're doing. You're actually working toward it, right? Is the idea that we're going to be able to translate what it says. It's not so important that everything is exact word for word because we just need them to get the gist of it, right? So pay attention to vocab, pay attention to tense. And after that, I think you can kind of loosen the reins a little bit. As a mom, I say that, not as an LR. And then in debate, I mean, you have to pick what's important to your family to highlight. So if you are economics people and that is your thing, go with God and do that thing. If your student is gifted in arts and music and wants to be a music worship pastor, I mean, yes, important. He understands economics, but is that where my focus on it? No. So we have, hot debate is a big deal, right? It's communal. Everybody counts on him. He's got to show up for debate. So we spend a lot of time and a lot of focus. His cost of living. I mean, it's interesting, and it's kind of cool, but we're not killing it on that. So there's just some things you kind of have to go through once you get to the upper challenge levels, and try to decide what are our family's goals, what are for tailoring, what are our family's goals, what are my students' future goals. And if you don't know that, or they don't know that, think about what they're interested in, right? Like where God may call them and use them, and start to kind of readjust, push up on the volume level. Like I'm thinking of a slider, push up on the things that you think important to our family, important to future, and kind of pull back on, hey, he's not going to be a math and science guy. Like he's just not. That's not where God wants him.
Well, and like I can say from our experience, there were times, because like we have a child with a lot of medical issues, and when my daughter was going through these things, I couldn't be right there with her all the time. I just couldn't. But being the community aspect, like her economic stuff, I it's so vague to me at this point. But when she would show up in community, the other students would notice whether or not, like, they looked at her cost of living project when I was missing it. And yeah, Tara, I'll show you the Words Aptly Spoken podcast in a little bit. I'll show you where that is. But they would say, yeah, your cost of living doesn't make sense, because they're at that dialectic stage and wanting to get rhetorical, where they want to start punching back on each other a little bit, nicely, hopefully. But they're helping call her out where I miss things. And so that's where the community aspect is just so beautiful. And using the students' natural, like the fact that they're at this stage of life where they want to be helping each other with this, because they want to kind of show off what they know. And they also love the people in community with them. So they're kind of helping each other. So,
Yeah.
so I
You
think
can
that
always,
helps me tailor as a mom.
Yes. Yeah.
you can always tell who didn't do the like projects to its like full completion, because if you did it to its full completion, then like you can just you can tell based off of like how they participate in community, and then you can also tell whether or not they understood it, and so you can help them understand it better. So it's really good.
Yeah.
The aspect is gold. When I hear people try to do this at home by themselves, I'm like, oh, you're missing about half of and you're making it hard on yourself as a mom too. Because at this age, students really do want to be helping each other, and they want to hear it from somebody besides mom too, especially young men. I know my boys, they get tired of hearing it from mom. So, all right, I'm going to move. Thank you so much for your input, buddy. That's super helpful hearing from a student. And I think everybody appreciates hearing from a challenge student and seeing where this goes and the fruit that it bears. And that's just very encouraging. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
Oh, and then, okay, so I'm going to go through the products now. So I'm going to give my perspective, and Jamie's going to stick around because I'm going to need her help. So I will talk about the science notebooks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through all 6 of those strands and talk about the products and the resources and what's necessary and what's not. So, so again, it is handy to have your catalog ready. So let's talk about the Words Aptly Spoken videos. This is an example of, this is a screenshot of when you go in the bookstore to buy a book, like you're looking for the Blue Stockings guide, it's zoomed in, so you only see the top part of the page. But if you scroll down, a lot of the products, there's what's a Words Aptly Spoken video down below, and those are all on YouTube and on Lee Borton's channel, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what Words Aptly Spoken video is, it's about a 45-minute to an hour-long video where it's Lee Borton's, our founder, Timothy Knotts, who is one of our, he writes a lot of our worldview stuff. So he writes our philosophy books, a lot of our reasoning strand. Jennifer Courtney, who is in charge of the program development to make sure everything is continuous. And then they have a guest speaker for that book, like somebody who is particularly good at that level. Sometimes it's a director, sometimes it's somebody in the professional world, something like that. But then they have a discussion about what is the point of this book? Why is it part of our curriculum? What they like, what they don't. And they kind of like punch back at each other and have a little Socratic discussion about that material, so that you as a mom get some of the content out of it and say, oh, this is something I should read with my students to help them along with it. Or this is something that, okay, maybe with the next student I will, but this one's not as urgent as something else. Or sometimes I listen to this and I say, I need to read the whole book verbatim. Like, I really just need to dig into this one to understand it. But if I don't have time for everything, like for example, we have this for a lot of the literature. So like Scarlet Letter, if I am like, I read Scarlet Letter a long time ago, but I'm a little vague still, and I know the story, but why is it part of our curriculum? What is the point in this being at this point in challenge 1? I listen to that, and then they discuss, oh, we are trying to talk about how this has to do with our overall theme. And then I can think, oh, this is what I need to draw out of my student when we're having discussions at home about these things. But your students can also listen to these and watch these. And I think it's a great intro over the summer for some of them. Not, you'll have to kind of think about which ones you want to save the surprise ending type stuff for your students. So, because I'm trying to remember, like, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird, I might have them read the book and then watch the video, in my opinion. You can also get those through YouTube. That is a clickable link. So if you want to open it in a side window, there's a book that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. There is a Words Aptly Spoken for this, the Office of Assertion. And I was listening to that overview just like a week or two ago, and some of the quotes they were reading out of it just gave me chills. So, and Jamie has kind of sold me on this book now. So I have to sit down and read this over the summer. This is what it looks like on YouTube. And there are several different years, so don't get mixed up. There's a 2023, 2024, 2025, and then they're doing a 2026. The easiest way to get those, though, is Lee Borton's just put them on her own personal website now. So it's a lot easier to find them there. You'll just go to leebortons.com, and then up at the top, you see it says podcasts, or no, I think it says book clubs. It'll say book clubs, and she has the Math Map book clubs, and then she has the Words Aptly Spoken. When you click on that, it takes you to a page like this where it has the calendar. If you want the old videos, you can go to archives and look for them. But the new videos that are going to be done this year that they're working on now over the summer and in the fall are here. And there's a lot of really relevant ones, a lot of the literature ones, but it is their goal to have a Words Aptly Spoken for every resource that we have. Even the phonics readers, our phonics readers, there's a Words Aptly Spoken video for it. And some of the handwriting books, they're like, why did we develop this handwriting book? So it kind of gives you just like what's the point of this thing? And like I said, if you're going through the website, like the CC bookstore, just scroll down, see if they have one. They haven't put them all on there yet, but they are there. So, all right. So parent resources, there's a couple I'm going to highlight. There's a million good books that I would recommend. But if you really want to understand, like there's a lot of literature in this level, and it is really good to be pulling some of the themes out and trying to understand the deeper meaning behind things. I love this Teaching the Classics curriculum. It is made for parents to do, although students could watch alongside with. It's designed for teachers to do in a seminar that's about 2 to 3 days long. But there are some communities, and then I do these myself, where I buy the DVDs, kind of like what we do with IEW, and then we do a one-day crash course where everybody's already read the stuff beforehand, and we fly through it in we start at 8 a.m. and we go to 5 p.m. And then everybody just needs to buy their little workbook or the seminar book. And then that kind of gives them a crash course on how to discuss and analyze the worldview and the themes of any literature, from Tale of Peter Rabbit to Tale of Two Cities. And it does use children's picture books as a way to practice that so we can get through it quickly. And so that if you're interested in having one of those in your area, you could reach out to me and we could talk about that. Some other ones that are highlighted in the catalog. Total Truth is an excellent book. It is a pretty meaty book, though. I'm going to have it right here. But it's talking, I think the subtitle, I can't read it on this small screen, but it's something like Liberating Christian from Cultural Captivity. And it's basically going through the history of Christianity, especially in the United States, and why it kind of pulls back the curtain to help you see, wait a minute, when we talk this way as believers, or when we are talking like this, is that really a biblical concept? Or is that something that's kind of been baked into our politics or our cultural understanding of Christianity that's not truly biblical necessarily? But it helps you understand some of the broader themes that have been going on through the ages in the United States. So, and through, throughout history too. Then Office of Assertion, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but it is, if you've been doing LTW, and we've done IEW for writing, and LTW helps you with a persuasive essay, but this is getting ready. It's just a little handy book that kind of is how students can start getting ready for more academic level writing and they can get more rhetorical. And I do strongly recommend watching the Words Aptly Spoken video for that. Jamie, do you want to say something about that since you're the pro at it?
No, oh my word. No, I'm not broke. But yeah, it's not a hard read. It's super thin, and I think it's really helpful. Also, if your student is interested or you're interested in looking into CC Plus, which is our SEU dual enrollment, which will start happening available for you in Challenge 2, 3, and 4. They use the Office of Assertion to grade your students' papers. The assessors do. And so it just kind of helps to get our bearings right as we start learning and we kind of see where we're going again. It just helps. So I think it's a great book. It really does give us some just some help as we learn how to assess our students' writing.
Mhm. Okay, and then that last one that I have there, this one's not the one highlighted in the catalog, but it's Amusing Ourselves to Death. I just love this one. It's from the 1980s. He wrote this, and he's saying, what would happen if our culture, he says, our Christianity and the Judeo-Christian worldview is based on a words-based culture. Our God calls himself the Word. But what happens when we as a society and overall, like the world is doing this pivot from a word-based culture to an image-based culture, to a visual-based culture. So, and now we have made that shift. So when he's talking about what would happen, and he's describing it in the past, and you read through it and you're like, oh, this has happened. And then you start seeing it around you everywhere. It really opens up to your mind for how having an image-based culture has changed the way people think about everything. So just anyway, but it's not totally discouraging. So I don't want to make it sound like it's one of those doom and gloom books, but it does help you kind of hold that back for your family a little bit and say, okay, I am going to prioritize word-based versus this, in that format. So, okay, so let's get into, oh, I'll text that to you. Okay, I will. Okay, so logic. So you do need the workbooks. Sorry, my husband needs an address. Actually, can I just give this to you to send to yourself? Jared? Sorry, I'm on a recording here. I'm on a call. Can you just pull that off for yourself? There it is. Thank you, sweetie. Thanks for your patience. This is like real life, we all the leadership at CC, we're all living life, just kind of fitting our work into the cracks of our lives. Little bits and pieces. Okay, so all right, so you are going to need the workbooks, the little packets. If you are doing a different, I want to clarify because there's some misconceptions about this. If you are doing a different math curriculum at home, I understand, and CC understands that. So if you are just like dead set on you love Math UC or you love Saxon or whatever, that is fine, and that is totally workable in your day. That doesn't mean though that you check out at community in this strand. So you can continue to use the same level that you've chosen, the same domain, all the way through all your math map years. So like if you have complex from Challenge A, you can keep bringing those booklets to class every week, but do not let your student disengage, or they're missing 1/6 of what you're paying tuition for, is having that discussion. But they can continue to use like the unused pages, or I know some people who they use a booklet for 2 years and then they jump, partly because they're on a budget, but also partly because the student didn't use all the workbook pages. But for scaling, I would say if you're trying, when we're talking scaling for logic, making sure your student does the top of every page. Now, some pages don't have a top and a bottom. There's the whole page. Try to get through that one. But when you see there's like a divider between the top and the bottom, have your students focus on the top of each page every year. And even if that, and in community, if they just go through the first 4 pages in community, they should only have 3 more days worth of just the top section. And then you can add on an additional math. So also, like, make sure you're setting a timer. Your student doesn't have to complete all the pages. I set a timer in my family for 45 minutes to work on the lesson pages, and then we stop. Where as long as it was diligent work, that's where we stop. So we do have a math map manipulatives kit now for moms that don't have all those things, like patty paper and some of the odd obscure things that are done on the activities on the back. That is available now. Also, there are new flashcards coming out. I do have those at the I will have those at my house for people to look at if anybody's coming tomorrow. But The algebra cards are fabulous because they show how to overall understand how numbers work. So you can use those even with your younger kids and participate. Like my 8-year-old will be going through some of those along with my older kids. So, all right, when you have grammar, so you guys already have, I'm sure you already have your Henley 1, and then your answer key, and then your grammar. So something to clarify though is the workspaces. If you're using the workspaces, you still do need the A, B, and 1, or you can reuse those each year so that you're just buying the 1 for second semester, and then you can continue to use the A and B for the previous year. I've seen people like where they erase them or they just work in a separate book. But for me, the beauty of the Latin workspace though is that when I am checking multiple students going in different directions and I don't have time to check every exercise, I can at least open that book and see whether or not he did the exercise because it's all laid out. I can see whether or not he filled out the chart or not. I can see whether or not he did all the sentences on there and whether it looks legit and stuff. So when I'm in a hurry, it's a good way for me. So I often think about scaling for moms. So I know there's scaling to make things easier for students, but for me, I need to kind of be good at scaling for my stuff to make sure I'm holding them accountable and not like letting things slip through the cracks. But those are the workspaces are optional. They're just, I find them very helpful for me. Catsell's Latin Dictionary, I don't think you're going to need that a whole lot. Yeah, they don't use Latin 1 till second semester. You'll just use the A and the B workspaces for first semester. So 1 isn't until second semester. Catsell's Latin Dictionary, I don't think they really need that very much this year. Do you think, Jamie? Like most of it's in the
Yeah, I mean,
basic.
just yeah, and even if you did, like, if you feel like you want to purchase it and have it on your shelf, you will need it for sure in the upper levels
Yeah.
of challenge. But yeah, and the other thing, just to clarify, just to make sure everybody's so when she's talking about Latin 1, she's just talking about the workspace. So you'll use the same books that you have. It's called Latin first year, but a lot of people online reference it as Latin 1. So I just want to make sure everybody's
Yeah.
clear, especially if you're listening in later. You'll use the same Latin purple book and
Yeah,
blue
it's a
book that you've been
book.
using. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you
you won't need any new Henley books this year. It's all the same stuff you've been using. Also, if you look at my social media pages, I put some videos on there about breaking apart your Henley book or how to like highlight and color code to help your student find their vocab very quickly. So we've done that, and it really helps my student not really need to pull out a Latin dictionary or something for this year. So, and then the Latin trivium tables, if you've been fine without it so far, I think you'll continue to be fine. I think it is handy to have later on. But I think basically go with what you've already had, what's been working for you, because it doesn't scale up a ton this year. So probably just maybe the Latin workspace if you need that. Okay, so then for research, so you have your basic textbook. And like I said, this is the first year they're really seeing a hardcore textbook. I would say that having the course guide and the answer key, first off, those come in a packet. So if you're buying those used from somewhere, make sure that you realize that it's usually a packet with 2 things shrink wrapped together. So don't think, oh yeah, I have everything just because you went and got the used copy of the answer key, but you don't have the test packet. And you may or may not want the test. It's just up to you. But for us, I need, like, when I'm doing transcripts, it's a hard and fast thing. I don't feel like I have to overthink their grades. I can say they either got it right or they didn't. So I like the tests for that. And what about you, Jamie? Do you feel like that's kind of a...
I have my class is about split. I have some parents that use the test guides and some parents who use the do your own questions in the back of
Okay.
after each module as the test.
Oh, okay.
So if it really depends on like if you want to kind of get it's more of a notebooking style, so it's not helping your student prep for testing. So it really just depends on what your goals are. But you have that option in that textbook at the end. There's like do your own. They call it. So I don't know what it's called. It's like bring your own something, but it's like an acronym. You know, we have so many acronyms in CC, I can't keep up. But that is available, and some parents use that as a test for a grade. But yeah, so it just kind of depends on your.
The reason I stopped using that as a test is because like some of the answers, it got kind of like we would kind of argue about them a little bit. And so for us, our grading, we kind of did, because they're dialectic, they're at that stage. So for
Yes.
us, it was like either the problems were done or not. Like if she legit did the problems, I gave her credit, and we weren't going to argue about how good the answer was. But for the tests, that was like our hard line of, no, you need to have this, because you're going to run into professors down the road or employers or whatever, where they're going to see things black and white. I'm not a black and white person. And so having the test helped me to be a little more black and white, to train her to realize that she's going to encounter that someday. So,
Yeah, I love
so
that. That's a
those
good
different
thought.
strategies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then we don't sell this product, but Apologia also has like a spiral bound, like student notebook thing. We use that a little bit kind of for a bit, because I was thinking, okay, this helps me see whether she has it done or not, but it didn't work as well as I'd hoped, because CC doesn't assign all the on your own stuff. And there's some things that we do, and there was like additional stuff in there that I didn't need her to do. So it wasn't as helpful as I'd hoped, but some people really love it. So just be aware of that. Now, when it comes to these other two products, the lab journal and the handbook. So personally, I think everybody should buy the handbook in Challenge A, because it was a huge help to us in science fair. But if you don't have this yet, I think it is required in Challenge 2. Like you will need to have it for Challenge 2. But for like Jamie, do you think that people can get by without this in one? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, they probably can. I don't know. I think it's really helpful.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna, it's the difference between, if you want to save money, it costs you in time. A lot of
Mhm.
times, if you want to save time, you got to pay up, right? So,
Yeah.
I think this is helpful if your student is kind of maybe a type A and they just need a little bit of structure, and then they're off to the races and understanding how to write a formal lab report and things like that. I
Mhm.
think there's all this information in the guide of how to do it. So if you want to sit down with your student and take that investment time and walk them through that, great. But this student lab report handbook would help you to ease some of that off of your plate,
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're a mom who likes to spend money instead of time, like me.
Right. And it is non-consumable. You'll use it with all your students. So we are still using my daughters for us with all my other students. It's also another one of those hard line things where, like, when my student says, do I have to do X? I don't think I really do. And I'm like stumbling through the guide trying to find it. I can say, oh, wait, no, it says right here, yes, you have to use ink. You cannot use pencil. Or because it makes it so that I don't have to be the bad guy, because I have some argumentative boys right now. And if I have this just, it saves me time just trying to discuss whether or not they need to follow the standards. So that's how I see it. Now this other one, Science Lab Journal. Okay, so there's pros and cons to this. It really is just a quadrilled notebook. With a few extra helps. There's a couple little things in there towards the back in the appendix, but not much. So we always I always just went and got a quadrilled book at Target or something like that. And that was totally fine. I've had other people though say that somehow, kind of like we had the, what was it called? The one that's used in one. I don't have it right here, but the note, it's like the journal one. Some people say having the official thing, the students sort of respect it more, and that they continue to use this throughout their CC years, like on into 2 and 3 for their labs. And it kind of became sort of like something they were proud of, and like had a certain level of like, this is my investment over the years in labs. So I can see that perspective. I have to decide, because I'm gonna have a challenge 1 student next year. So I'll have to decide if, because he can be kind of like that. He takes pride in continuing a notebook. So that's the pros and cons for that. But really, it is a quadrilled notebook that has a CC logo on it. So it's up to you. Some people really love that sort of thing. So think about your student's personality, and they could just add to it every year. So, all right, exposition. Let's see. So you probably already have your Lost Tools books. At this point, I don't think you need a new student book each year. Some parents get a second one for B. I don't think it's super necessary for one. Does that sound about right, Jamie? Like, what do you think? They kind of know the process.
Yeah, they're really just using the skills in it. And they've honed those so well, like they don't need as much. Yeah, so they're doing it kind of on their own. I think you could get away with not having it. But we do if there's dust on your teacher manual, find that thing because we go
Mhm.
all the way to the last essay style. So we learn 2 or 3 more essay style, like more elocution elements and things that we haven't used before in
Okay.
A and B. So just be aware that like you are going to have to actually teach them something.
And watch the videos. The videos are on CC Connected and they're great. There's the old also on the web, they're also on the website, but there's the old ones and the new ones. And that's what in the summer, I invest myself every year. I just need to go back through those to refresh in that. All right. So for the literature copies, I think it's more important that you have a copy, your student has a copy that they're willing to write in, annotate in, take notes in, use the little flags, all that, than that they have like the perfect CC copy. Do you know what I'm saying? But do you think, are there some books, some of these that you think it's more important that they have, Jamie? Like that you think that, like, for example, the Copper Lodge, are some of the Copper Lodges helpful versus just getting like a used library copy?
Yes. Yeah, they're worth the investment. The Copper Lodge, I can't talk. The Copper Lodge. The reason is because there are definitions. There are also a little bit of explanations that are helpful when they're reading that the Copper Lodge ones have that the other ones won't. It's not like a Cliff Notes deal. Like we're not like basically giving them where they don't have to read it. It's just reinforcing.
I don't know if you can see that.
Mhm.
All
It's
these like little
reinforcing.
notes at the bottom.
And it's just reinforcing like what it is that they're supposed to be looking at. And so I like those a lot.
Okay.
And I think too, I don't know that you can find Harvey anywhere else but CC. So just so you know, that one I think you have to buy through CC because I don't even know if you can
I
even
think it's
find one.
it's in other books. You have to buy a bigger book, but you might not
Right.
know that it's in there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
tricky. Or I think you can like print off PDFs, but you're kind of making, it's another thing, like money or time, which do you have more of, that kind of thing. So, and then the anybody who doesn't know, Copper Lodge is just these ones that you see the Navy band, like CC has reprinted these and like done additional work in them. So, all right. So, and then the words aptly spoken, the book. To me, these aren't optional because I use them so heavily to engage my student in a discussion, especially if I can't read all the books or if I'm kind of getting scatterbrained and running in a lot of different directions. This helps me zero in. Wait, I haven't had a discussion with my student about this book yet. I can't quite remember everything, or I can't even like think straight to come up with a good question. I keep this on my dashboard, and when we're driving places, we do a lot of car school. So I'll say, what book are you in right now? Oh, you're reading, Self-Reliance. I can pull that off my dashboard at a, red light, look at it a little bit, scan for some questions. I ask them a few of them until I hit something that gets them like excited. And then I can just set it away, and then we can just go with the conversation. The younger kids in the car can also like kind of listen in, participate a little bit, kind of ask questions themselves or kind of give him some pushback. But I feel like that really helps me. It's like a parent help to help me stay engaged when I'm kind of losing track of what's going on. So that's
Yeah,
a
and
scale for moms.
yeah, and you do have to have that one that your
Oh, do
student
you?
will read. You do.
Okay.
You have to have the blue one, the American Documents one. Then you
Yes.
also have to have the American Literature because your student will read some stories out of the American literature.
Oh, that's
So
right. You said that in our last call, and I forgot to mark that.
it's the children's literature that you don't necessarily, even though it's referenced some, you don't have to actually have your
Yeah.
student will read through that, but they'll read through both of those. So you will have to have that. The other
Okay.
thing I wanted to say is when you start buying, check with your director because there are several books that are director choice.
Yes.
Based on class makeup, based on kind of what she feels families as she gets to know families. So unless you just want all of the books on your shelf, which is a great idea, there'll be some times where she'll make a choice. And so you want to make sure that you got the book that is actually going to be used in community.
Mhm.
So
So
there's
like
a few.
Sign of the Beaver versus Witch of Blackbird Pond. That's one of those, right? So like, no,
Yes.
that's in the catalog, the books are put in order that you're going to read them. So just beware, like right for week 1, know which one of those you need. Not all of them that are set in a pair, like you see in the catalog, are director's choice, but there's a few that are, when they're set together, it's because there is. So I think it's Tom Sawyer versus Old Fashioned Girl is another director's choice. And then the over the Christmas reading, the Christmas pageant, or there's also, am I getting my levels mixed up? Is it the,
I know you're thinking of the right one. They do have to read the best Christmas pageant ever. The only other director decision one is Starship Troopers. Whether or
Okay.
not they're going to read, that's at the end. Starship
Okay.
Troopers. Yeah. So it's pretty laid out pretty well. It has a little asterisk and it says check with director before purchasing. And the reason is because she's going to get to decide what she wants to lead through. Like for instance, I had a class of all boys, and so I picked Tom Sawyer. I didn't pick Old Fashioned Girl for my class of all boys to read.
right, yeah.
Maybe I should have. Maybe that's a discussion y'all can have with me. But I didn't want to listen to it, so I just chose Tom Sawyer. So
All right, and then wakeful words. I know we're getting long on time, so I'll try to hurry up here. And then wakeful words, you do need, I believe it's in challenge 2, you will need it, but it's optional this year. But a lot of people have told me, oh, I wish I'd had that in challenge A or something like that. Because what it is it's taking literary devices and it's pulling excerpts from all the literature that the students read from A all the way up through 4. And it's saying, like, for example, onomatopoeia, where is that found in all our different books? And it shows examples. So I know some parents really, the ones that like to go the extra mile, they really like that early on, but it's when you're trying to budget and things like that, or it's also a time budget. That's one that I bought and I didn't use as much as I'd like to have, but then I ended up using it a little bit more when we were doing IEW. So just to give my students illustrations about things. Okay, so for debate, like Jamie was saying, you do need to have the American documents. You need all 3 of these economics books, the Penny Candy, Money Mystery, and the standard Blue Stocking Guide. And you will, for this level, you do need the tour guide, the debate tour guide. Now the debate trivium table is optional, but I'll tell you that is one of the best trivium tables, aside from the essentials ones. I think that is one of the best trivium tables we have. And I use, so we're in NCFCA, like a speech and debate league, and I bring that with me to help moms or judges who are trying to understand debate. And I just show it to them. They're like, oh, why doesn't everybody use this thing? Like in all the speech leagues. But it does lay out like the different, like, especially for team policy, when you're like, what's a 1AC? I don't understand all this. What's a rebuttal? All this. It lays it out in a graphic way that's very helpful. So I would say that one is borderline necessary because of how helpful it is. Any pushback on that, Jamie?
no, I was gonna agree. If I as a director, I would say it's required if I could. It's just so helpful because you just, and I use it every debate. I used it on Wednesday. They had their second. Yeah, it's a lot. It's just so super helpful.
Yeah, the students graduate out of it, but as a mom, I still use it regularly. So, okay. And then reasoning, you do need Taming of the Shrew. I would say all the Folgers guides. These are the ones, you'll see these up in challenge 3. We call them the Folgers book editions. I think that it's really good to have that same edition because then you guys can be on the same page. There's also good explanations. And then my daughters love those so much that she keeps buying more of them. She has a whole shelf. It's like, super long, and it's all the rainbow colors. She has them like in a rainbow, but so over time it's kind of developed an affection with those particular books. You don't need the Charles and Mary Lamb books, the Tales from Shakespeare, but you're really going to want it. So it's not required, but you're really going to want it. And if you don't use it this year, you will definitely use it for challenge 3. But it's also, so it's basically giving a simplified version in modern language of what's going on in the story. So, and as a mom, if you're not going to sit there and read Taming of the Shrew with your student, you can read this and it kind of helps you along a little bit. But it's also a great way when you have younger students, you guys can read that together as a family so that they're getting an understanding of Taming of the Shrew or Midsummer Night's Dream or whatever else. That way it's a little bit more familiar when they see it later on and kind of bring the family back together. For traditional logic, I would say unless you are starting challenge starting challenge 1 and haven't been through challenge B, I don't think you need the DVDs for that. I would say, but you do need the student book, the teacher key, if you're going to hold your student accountable. Quizzes and tests, I would say if you're using that to help with your transcript and your grading, you will need that. But yeah, not the DVDs. So any addition, and then the trivium table logic, I didn't put that there. I'd say that one's pretty optional, but we refer to that over and over again over the years. Sometimes my kids just seeing a visual reminder of like truth tables or the square of opposition, things like that, just to whip that out and be like, oh yeah, I remember now. And then they can put it back away. Or it enumerates a lot of the fallacies, stuff like that. So they often have that in their crate, their challenge crate. And then they might not use it for weeks, but when they want it, right there to pull out and refer to. So. Anything to add there, Jamie? No. Okay. We've done this a few times together. Okay, so our online resources. So CC Connected, you want to get on this over the summer or now if you have margin, but definitely over the summer. And don't just jump into this in August when you're just trying to figure out what's going on and you're juggling all the things. Do this over the summer. What you're going to look for is the first thing when you get on CC Connected and you're going to go to the Learning Center, you're going to look for the digital directory page, paper, and you're going to print that out. This is an example of the Challenge 4 but it's a list of all the online resources for that level. And that way I just keep that with my parent planning, my teacher planning stuff. So I can refer to that without jumping on my computer and scrolling through. So I can see, okay, I'm crunched for time right now. Is there something on there worth that I really want to get to? Or my student's struggling right now. I wonder if there's something that could help them through the logic or taming of the shrew or whatever. I can even see if there's something on there instead of just jumping on and wasting time scrolling and then end up checking my email. And then before you know it, I've lost track of what I'm doing. So print that out so you can have that. And then look for things over the summer, look for things that you want to that you do want to utilize. Some of the things you can just watch over the summer and you're good and you are totally fine. But some of the ones you're going to want to be able to refer back to. So you're going to put a heart there. That is a long document to print. How many pages is it for Challenge 1? Because some of them are usually like, I think Challenge B was like, I want to say like 14 pages.
Yeah, I don't remember it being like super long, but I can look it up while you're talking. But
and I double side mine when I print them out, so that helps. So it's just I do that to keep me off the computer because I can be easily distracted. So and I use that throughout the year. So this is just my advice. So if you're good at jumping on and off, then that's totally cool. So but I scan through during the summer and see what things I'm going to want to reuse during the year. And I go ahead and put a heart. And now on CC Connected, there's this new feature. I haven't played with it yet, but you can create playlists. So, and you can name it what you want. You can put, you can make like a week 15 playlist, or you can make a playlist for videos for Sebastian to watch to help with the LTWs or something like that. So you can make your own playlist. That way you're not doing this during the year. Don't think that you're going to go on in February and not get lost on there or are going to be efficient with your time. So plan ahead, do that over the summer. What else do I have here? I'm usually on a larger screen, so I'm trying to remember. That's just some examples. This is more for Challenge 4, but there's a student leader preparation template. Okay, so when you go into the main page, not the CC bookstore, but on the classicalconversations.com, if you scroll to the bottom, there is under resources these blogs. This is another good thing to spend your time on over the summer, and do a search thing for Challenge 1 and read some of these articles over the summer. Also, it'll show you some of the podcasts. There's the Everyday Educator podcast. You guys can't, you don't need to listen to all the podcasts they've ever put out, but it is good to listen to the ones that are made for you for that level. So like for Challenge 1, when it starts talking about debate, for example, those things I find to be incredibly helpful, kind of inspiring. And then also I save some of those. So in February, when I'm feeling kind of down or it's kind of a cloudy day like this, I can listen to them, pep me up, and have me like charging back in helping my student. Because parent enthusiasm, I think, is more important than parents having everything all put together. If mom is inspired, then we can feed that back to our students versus we know everything, but we don't really care. So I think that's important. Okay. Also, now that you're going to have to start doing transcripts, CC Connected, like right where you see along the side where the Learning Center is and all that, if you go down a little further, there is the transcript service. It is brand new last year, I think. We used to have this really clunky service that was fine. I used it for my older daughter. But this one now you can say I'm in Challenge 1 and it'll auto-populate the stuff, the different credits that you get, and then you assign grades. So it's just beautiful. It's so much better than the old one. But do not put this off because like I said, when my daughter was in challenge 1, I was kind of drowning with medical stuff with a son. And I put this off and I didn't do a good job at it. You really do want to stay on top of it. So I did use this Transcripts Made Easy book. I think CC still sells it. It's not in the catalog right now, but I think if you search it in the bookstore, it's there. It is updated now for more modern stuff. My old copy, I need to get a new one for doing transcripts, but this did give me a lot more confidence as a homeschool mom, knowing that I was doing things properly, and there will be people in your community that can help you with this, but having something to refer to is very helpful. And honestly, there's just a lot of garbage on the internet where people are trying to help you with it, with stuff like this, and it doesn't always apply to your state or your educational goals or things like that. So this, I felt like, kind of became my Bible when I was doing transcripts. So this won't apply to you this year, but you do need to kind of be thinking about this coming up. Don't wait until next year for challenge 2 to make, to be looking at this. But concurrent enrollment is something they can start earning in challenge 2. That is, again, at the bottom of the page, like what I was showing where the blogs are, but it's on the other bar there. We don't call it dual enrollment because we're not doing 2 different things to get credit. CC's work is enough. That you just add a little bit extra to kind of like connect with the professors at SCU, and CC's work is enough to count for college credit. So there's a website, kind of gives you all the information about it. And then we do have, I was hoping that I don't have a slide for that, but you can see on there what the credits are going to be offered for challenge 2, 3, and 4. So do be looking ahead to that. And then just be aware that we do have our postgraduate programs now. We have a gap year program called the Odyssey, and you can also get your undergrad degrees. There's several people at our campus that their students graduated challenge 4. They already had the concurrent credits, and now they're getting their undergrad through SCU online through CC. So it's saving them a ton of money on college tuition. And then they might have to go to a campus for their senior year to finish up a couple things. I think one of them is able to do 100% of it just online through SCU. So, all right, do we have any more questions that we want to hit? We try to be pretty thorough. If anybody has any questions before we sign off, we are 10 minutes over, and I apologize about that. This is my discount code if anybody is going to order now before the sale. Just as a reminder for anybody who got on later in the call, April 7th begins our new product sale, and that is the best price on MathMap. But if you did want to do if you are doing an earlier purchase before that and stuff that doesn't apply to that sale, if you use this discount code right here, it'll give you either a free set of flashcards or a free Trivium table. You just use that coupon, but it does expire May 31st. Also expiring May 31st is all the free digital downloads for all the lessons for MathMap. So be very aware of that and spread the news in your communities. I know that come April 1st, people are going to be texting me, hey, wait, I forgot to download all those things and they're not available anymore. I know I'm going to get those emails. So please help spread the news that if anybody wants those, download them now. Just download them onto a drive and organize them that way so they're not filling up your computer. But and then you can help your community out and be the go-to person for that. So. All right, well, if nobody has any questions, I'll just do my outtakes. Don't forget, I'm doing that pop-up bookshop here at my house tomorrow. I am on the east side of Louisville, so it is like if you're coming from Lexington, it's not too far out. But I'll have all the new products. I have a bunch of merchandise like shirts and earrings, and I think they didn't send me the timeline socks yet, so I don't have the timeline socks to give you guys. But I do have these things to look at, and a lot is available for purchase, including Lee Borton's. I have 20 copies of the Habits if anybody wants to pick up one of those. And then make sure you're registering for Practicum. It is going to be really good this year. And you can link to the recording for all the new products. Anybody who didn't see that at the beginning of the call, that's the link to that. And again, like I said earlier, do encourage the parents in your class, your students' class, to watch the recordings. If they haven't been able to get onto this call, that they can watch the recordings when I send them out next month, because the better equipped the parents are in your class, the better equipped their students will be. And that is a better relationship for your student to have some like really sharp iron to sharpen themselves themselves against as they're going into next year. So your class is only as good as all the students in it and how prepared the parents are as well. So encourage them to watch that. And yet again, these are our social media pages. This is how I get information out about flash sales. Like if there's some big sale in July right before community starts, this is my best way to get information out rapidly when I'm not doing another newsletter for that month. So make sure you are subscribing to it. But if you don't interact with it, like you don't do thumbs up or never comment, the algorithm will eventually make that disappear and you won't see that in your feed. So just be aware of that. Occasionally, like interact with it and comment or something to keep it in your feed so you see those things. And I think that's all I've got. So Jamie, thank you so much for all the time that you invest in doing these calls with me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I just want to encourage you, mamas. You've got beauty coming. Hang in there. I'll encourage you with the word. It says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, and be strong. You can do this. God's given you all you need. Lean into those tough conversations. I promise it's worth your time. And love on those kids in a difficult season where they're growing and changing. And I promise you're going to see beauty in the end. So blessings on your year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. All right.